Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II. With this souvenir issue, so I'm going to put my tea to one side until we have had a look. And as you can see behind, it's her very good friend, Paddington Bear. And on Paddington's tag, please look after this bear, thank you. And so we say, please look after our Queen, thank you. This is a special edition of the Country Life. These postcards are in fact of Highgrove, which was then Prince Charles, now King Charles's residence. He adored his gardens. Let's pop those there for now. It says, today the world doesn't seem to know whether to swathe itself in black to mourn someone who for many felt like a member of our own family, or cloak itself in resplendent red, white and blue to show its robust appreciation for the remarkable woman we have lost, Elizabeth II. She herself would have been modest enough to feel that neither was needed. There was duty to be done, and she enjoyed the simple pleasure that comes from doing such a task well and gladly over the many decades of her reign. It says at Country Life, we come down firmly in the celebration camp, and this special issue is a tribute to a life that was anything but ordinary. We hope that you will join us to wish the most heartfelt thanks to this most remarkable of monarchs as we bid her a fond farewell. And as I flip through this, we've just had in the UK the vigil of the 8 grandchildren around her coffin, which was incredibly moving. Yesterday was her children, led by King Charles, and tomorrow at 8 o'clock on Sunday there'll be a minute's silence before her funeral on Monday. I think what we've all noticed, particularly over this last week of the much footage that we have seen and shared, is her remarkable smile. And I'm probably not the only one who's thought, although we knew so much, we saw so much of her through all of our lives, as she has been a constant throughout my life, my parents' life. But it's only when someone goes that you really feel like you ought to have got to know them that little bit better. I mean, isn't that wonderful? And we've seen so much of pictures new Prime Minister only last Tuesday, just 2 days before she passed, is an astonishing feat. And the smile and the laughter certainly demonstrates what a wonderful sense of humour she had. And although I record this in Sepia, as it's easy on the eyes to sleep and to calm, I can absolutely tell you it is full of colour. This is a very, very bright red with an orange undertone, and she was once told perhaps to wear more muted colours for her own safety, and she absolutely declined. She was very much her own person, and although she was royal, she came across as modest. And yet, if people talk about being in her company, they say that you knew that you were amongst a royal. It's so strange. And it's wonderful seeing these pictures. Through the years, I do think at possibly one stage there were more muted tones with the 80s and the 90s perhaps. And then certainly the last 20 years or so, her outfits have been impeccable. With the matching hats, just wonderful. Seeing the country and the world come together to mourn this most wonderful woman is incredibly moving. Same with the stamps. So much will also have to change now. The coronation, 27 million people in the UK watched it on television. That was about half of the population. For some it was the first thing they'd ever seen on the small screen. 3 million thrown the pavements along the route. 8,251 members of the congregation were inside Westminster Abbey, and 29,200 British colonial and Commonwealth troops lined the route. Again, seeing the footage of Her Majesty leaving Balmoral to go to Edinburgh to stay there for a couple of days. The people, the families by the side of the roads, the colours of the troops, the meticulous timing of them it's just been incredible. Perhaps at some point I'll actually read out in depth a bit more pieces to make a slightly longer video. But for now I just wanted to share with you this edition. I mean, again, what a beautiful smile. just amazing. And I think this image is, sorry, my tummy's rumbling a little bit, probably the side of marmalade sandwiches. Oh, there's a note about, if I wore beige, nobody would know who I am. And she was told to wear beige. But I think, yes, Paddington Bear, the moment this year, Platinum Jubilee, and tapping her teaspoon on the cup. Oh, precious. Wonderful carriage. Riding in the gold state coach with the Duke of Edinburgh and the parade from Buckingham Palace to St Paul's Cathedral to celebrate the Golden Jubilee in 2002. I mean, that is the thing now. You know, she is with her husband again. A little princess. But these are all black and white anyway. I love of horses and dogs. And I saw a little bit of the horse racing today, and they were paying a tribute to her. And I hadn't realised, although she owns Ascot, but not recently, but she always with some of her guests used to ride a horse along the Ascot racecourse before the actual races began. I mean, it's just, she is the younger one, and her father. It's of her father's coronation in 1937. That's a lovely regal picture, which I think we're going to have up in our pub restaurant. Evening, the coronation. As this day draws to a close, I know that my abiding memory of it will not only be the solemnity and beauty of the ceremony, but the inspiration of your loyalty and affection. Oh my goodness. I mean, where she's lying in state now at Westminster Hall, the queue, I think it went up to about 23 hours to queue. I think at the moment it's about 13 hours, and obviously at some point they're going to have to draw a line, a cut-off period, to allow those who have joined to get there before the actual funeral on Monday. But many, I mean, so many have wanted to pay their respects and queue for that length of time, and again the camaraderie amongst those queuing and the stories that we're hearing are just admirable. They really are. That's a nice picture. A lasting love. Elizabeth II made 2 lifelong commitments to her country and to her husband. Both involved sacrifice, but both brought her joy. Oh. It's lovely. 70 years, she dedicated her life to the country, the nation, the people. Never putting a step wrong. Home is where the heart. The family has been at the centre of the Queen's life since her idyllic childhood, and has been her mainstay throughout the years. Certainly we've seen and heard recently so many fond stories of her love for Balmoral and the time she shared with her family and the family picnics, everyone mucking in. Some near where she lived, just seeing her in the street or in the shop or riding a horse. No airs and graces, just one of the people. The royal family appears in the balcony of Buckingham Palace to watch a flypast of 100 aircraft on July the 10th, 2018 to commemorate the centenary of the RAF. William, Catherine, Harry, Meghan, Queen Consort. Keep calm and carry on. Just wonderful. That's also nice. There she was. Greeting the other troops, but it says this is what she said. She said, "You look familiar. Prince Harry's Sandhurst passing out parade was a very proud occasion." And you can see him smiling there. I mean, as well as a grandmother, I think he nicknamed her the boss. Oh, it's wonderful there. Having her family on engagements with her was always enjoyable. Younger members of the family, such as the Duchess of Cambridge, joint president of the Scouts, took on great prominence in many roles in recent years. Queen to Queen, Victoria to Elizabeth and beyond, Victoria, Edward VII, George V, Edward VIII, George VI, Elizabeth II, King Charles now, and then it will be William. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about my tummy. And this crown, the imperial state crown, is set with 2,868 diamonds, 17 sapphires, 11 emeralds and hundreds of pearls. Weighing almost 2.5 pounds, it was shortened by an inch for the Queen, who revealed to the BBC, "You can't look down to read speeches at the state opening of Parliament, because if you did, your neck would break and it would fall off." There are some disadvantages to crowns, but otherwise they're quite important things. The Crown Estate regalia travelled to the state opening of Parliament in their own carriage, ahead of the monarch, and this crown, I believe, is now placed carefully on top of her coffin. And when she came through the streets of London on Wednesday, with William and King Charles and Harry and Edward and Princess behind the coffin, this sat, but the sun was gloriously out, and it literally just twinkled. Just the sight of her in horses ahead, the colours, the troops, the flags, the mix of emotions that you could tell from the people that were lining the streets, one in celebration of a life, one in celebration that we have a new king, but also the sadness that this constant that we all knew has come to an end. And there are many faces on the pages of Country Life, many times. I love seeing the footage of when a few of our horses, I think it was estimate, not sure, yeah, 2012 maybe, I'm not sure, one, and the absolute look of glee on her face as she saw across the line. Exquisite detail, the garments worn by the Queen. I think we also can't help but notice over the years what an incredible figure. She had the tiny waist and just that poise. Her real charm, like her mother's, does not carry across in her photographs, and each time one sees her, one is delighted how much more serene, magnetic, and at the same time meltingly sympathetic she is than one had imagined. In the photographs there is a certain heaviness which is not there in real life, and one misses the effect of the dazzlingly fresh complexion, the clear regard from the glass blue eyes. I mean, she has got the incredible glass blue eyes, and the gentle, all-pervading sweetness of her smile sums it up beautifully. And I think for some of the photos and pictures that we see, there does seem to be this light that comes from her. Just I don't think any of us can say completely how proud we are to have had her as our Queen all this time. And her sense of duty, was one of the hallmarks of Elizabeth II's reign, whether it was at events, at national celebration, or personal importance. Remembrance Day. And I don't think any of us will forget the image during COVID of her attending her husband's funeral, sitting solemnly alone, dressed in black, with a black mask. Just incredibly sad. And the Christmas messages that every year at 3 o'clock became another landmark for so many. It's possible for so many that the television made it possible to have her in your homes on Christmas Day. Oh my goodness. And there we are, as I was saying about the love of animals, away from the glamour and ceremonial. The Queen liked nothing better than to get out into the fresh air with her horses and dogs. Along the way she became one of the most successful racehorse owners and made the corgi popular. lifelong love of horses from her father, George VI. She had an ability to get horses psychologically attuned to what she wants and then persuade them to enjoy it. The Queen's pleasure of winning the Gold Cup, it was 2012 with Estimate. Such wonderful, wonderful pictures. And that was the magnificent monarch, the Queen mounted on Burmese at Troop in the Colour in 1972. Her Majesty rode the horse, a gift from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, at the event for 18 consecutive years between 1969 and 1986. Black armbands are being worn to mark the recent death of the Duke of Windsor. Beautiful Burmese. Her Majesty closely follows their development. If the Queen wasn't the Queen, she would have made a wonderful trainer. She has such affinity with horses and is so perceptive. Her Majesty lets fate take its course and accepts what happens. When it comes to horses, she always looks forward and never dwells on the past. She is never melancholy. Instead, she is very level, accepting and straightforward. I suppose that is what has made her such an amazing monarch. But there she is with her corgis. My corgis are family. Shown here in 1936 with Dookie, her first corgi, and his mate Jane, parents of Carol and Crackers, once said, and the connection was immediate. It's lovely. I believe, not entirely sure, but I think the Duke or Duchess of York are taking some of her corgis, looking after them, I think. I'm not entirely sure on that. Corgis tumble down the plain steps as they disembark, ready for duty. Wonderful. It's just a lovely picture of colour in the garden. Had she not been who she was, she would have liked to be a lady living in the country with lots of horses and dogs. Speaking on Silver Jubilee. When I was 21, I pledged my life to the service of our people, and I asked for God's help to make good that vow. Although that vow was made in my salad days, when I was green in judgment, I do not regret nor retract one word of it. And she didn't waver off that path, stayed committed to her duty, devoted her life to sovereignty and to her people and the nation. So, to our Queen, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.